Hey everyone, it's Reilly with another all-English episode. But today it's not a solo episode. I'm here with my friend Josh. Josh, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Josh. I'm Reilly's friend, and I come from Wales in the UK.
We've been living in Kagawa. I was going to say together, but we don't live in the same house. But yeah, we've been friends in Kagawa for what, 8 years-ish? 7, 8?
Yeah, coming up to 8 years now.
Yeah, but anyway, we're going to talk about some differences between the UK and the US. But before that, I should talk a little bit about the events. So yeah, Sota and I have been to Nagoya, Fukuoka, Sendai, and Tokyo now. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun. We've got Sapporo coming up this weekend, and then in a couple of weeks, Osaka. So I'm looking forward to those, and hopefully, yeah, I don't know if this one will actually come out before Sapporo, but if you do hear it before then, yeah, come out to Sapporo, come out to Osaka. I guess, yeah, Instagrams, you can follow me at Reilly Sullivan XD. Sota is eigonosota. Do you want to drop your Instagram?
I don't know it off by heart.
That's okay. Or we'll leave it there then. Yeah. And let's get into the episode. Okay, yeah, so obviously, as Josh said, he's from Wales in the UK, and I'm American, as you should probably know. So we're going to talk about some differences. Is there anything you want to start off with, Josh?
Yeah, I guess being from Wales, the way that my culture is probably a little bit different from other people in the UK.
Sure.
So maybe if your listeners have any like British friends or something like that, maybe the things that I've went through or the things that I say are going to be a little bit different from them, as I'm sure it is for many American people too.
Yeah, I'm thinking like maybe a lot of the listeners, their like biggest exposure to the UK is going to be like Harry Potter and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously that's like fantasy. It's not really the UK, but it's based off it.
There are a lot of similar things to Harry Potter in the UK, especially like the schooling system. It did a pretty good job of showing like how school is in the UK a lot of the time.
Except for like a castle. You don't go to school at a castle, even in Wales, I'm guessing.
Well, no, that's like a rich school, that is, like Oxford or something like that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. No, but the things like, you know, in Harry Potter they have houses and stuff like that.
Right.
That's pretty common in British schools. Like in my school, we had we called them houses, but they were named after local Welsh rivers.
Okay.
So mine was Cynon, and there were other ones like Taf and Dar and stuff like that, which are Welsh names for the rivers. Okay.
And like, I don't know, does it go so far as like in Harry Potter, obviously all the houses have like kind of characteristics, you know, Gryffindor is brave and Slytherin is cunning, or I forget what the nice way to say Slytherin. They're bad, I guess, in the story. But Ravenclaw is like smart, I think, and I don't remember Hufflepuff, but whatever. Do your houses have like stereotypes?
Not that like they would get placed into those houses because of these traits, but they would be like self-made. Like we would always make fun of the kids in the Perugum class for being stupid or something like that.
Okay.
But that was just like all self-made. However, we would do like sports things together. Like we would get put together as a whole school who were all in Cynon, and we would face the other houses and get points based on things like winning races and stuff like that. And that was pretty fun.
Okay, so kind of like how a sports day happens in Japan, but like instead of having just a red team and a white team, you had all different houses, like 5 or 6.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, 5 or 6.
Okay. All right, moving away from Harry Potter, I guess a bit then. We were talking a little bit before the episode about like language, and actually Sota and I have talked about this before, how like Osaka is like similar to, or rather I should say Osaka people are similar to Americans in a lot of ways, is in terms of like how they, I think we talked about on the haggling episode when we were talking about trying to like talk about prices at a store or whatever. And actually Josh just mentioned that people in Osaka are maybe like people in America. What did you say for the UK?
Yeah, so as you said, Osaka people are from America. They're very straightforward in how they speak. I think British people are more like people from Kyoto, where they are more conscientious about the words that they use, and they try to be a little bit more polite, but there's often a hidden message in what they're saying. They don't always say exactly what they mean.
Right, so they kind of have like you could say, indirect way of speaking, maybe.
Yeah,
where,
that's right.
In the US, it's usually more direct. Probably.
That's absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah. You had some examples of some things that you say in the UK?
Yeah, like, for me, it's very similar to people in Kyoto, where, like, if somebody has stayed in your house for too long,
okay,
we would say, oh, do you want another cup of tea? And that means it's time for you to go.
Right, okay.
So it's almost like one for one.
Did they actually say that in Kyoto? I haven't heard that.
I've heard that that's what they say. Like, do you want some tea? And it means it's time to go.
Right. I mean, I guess in the US, we might say something like, oh, are you staying for dinner? Which is like, usually it is meant honestly, like we will serve you dinner if you plan to stay for dinner. But the kind of hidden message is like, don't. Like, I mean, like, you've been here a while. It's time for us to start eating dinner.
Yeah.
But I guess also we would certainly, if we have someone over and we offer that, we really are offering it.
Yeah. Or I think another big example, and this is something that happened to me in my life, was I was lost in London.
Okay.
And I went up to the ticket desk and I asked, like, hey, do you work here? And they said, oh no, I'm just standing here.
Right.
Where that's like another example. It's more of a joke.
Right.
Where, like, British people don't say what they mean, but it's like clearly very obvious that person worked there. So the question that I asked was kind of stupid, and they let me know that. Right.
Which I'm thinking in Japan would almost never happen. I couldn't imagine a station attendant being like, obviously, like, they're wearing a uniform and everything too, but I couldn't imagine a station attendant making fun of you for asking some sort of question like that.
Yeah. And it wasn't malicious in any way. It was meant to be a joke, and I was in on the joke as well.
Right. Yeah. Okay, that's a good one. I mean, I feel like that kind of thing you could hear in the US too. I don't think that's too different. But I don't know. I'm trying to imagine in the US, and it might be a little bit more malicious. Like, they might be actually upset with you for asking them a stupid question like that, but I don't know. Yeah, you said you were at a train station.
Yeah, it was one of the bigger ones in London as well, so I guess the guy gets asked that question a lot.
Sure. I was just going to say that's another potential difference, is like being at a train station. I mean, I guess in London, if you compare it to like New York has train stations too, but I think in general in the UK, you get around by train a bit more than we do.
Yeah, I would say so. Except the big thing that we always complain about in the UK is that the trains are never working.
Right.
I've got a friend who goes by train from Leeds to Dundee in Scotland every year, and the big joke that she has is that it's always cancelled. Every single time she goes, every year she posts on her Instagram that the train's cancelled again.
But she still goes by train every year, or tries to.
She tries to, yeah.
Yeah. So how does she end up going? By plane?
She probably gets a replacement bus.
A bus?
Yeah.
Ugh. I had to do that in New York for a while. My train line was stopped from my apartment to where I went to school, and they had like replacement buses, and it was the worst.
Yeah, they're pretty bad. Or sometimes there's no replacement bus at all. Your train just gets cancelled, and you either have to get the next one, which is maybe in an hour,
right?
Which is very different from Japan.
Yeah.
Or what's the other thing you have to? Oh. Or what happened to me last year is they just dropped me off at a random station in the middle of nowhere and didn't tell me how to get to my final destination.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's a crazy story. Maybe a story for another time. But and it was nighttime too, right? You were like,
was night.
You couldn't really go another way.
Yeah, it was raining like crazy. Yeah.
UK, by the way.
Yeah. The station was flooded. It was a nightmare.
Okay, what's another thing? Something we talk about on the podcast a bit for some reason, maybe it's my American influence, is fast food. Obviously, in America, we have a lot of fast food, hamburgers probably being the most famous of them. Are there some UK fast food you want to share?
Yeah, I think probably the one that everybody would know would be fish and chips.
Okay.
Which is the most affordable fast food. However, we also have a lot of Chinese takeaways and Indian takeaways. So takeaway in the UK is a restaurant where you don't sit down to eat. There's no tables. There's just a counter. You order your food and you take it home. Yeah, that's pretty common. We would get one of those like every, once a month or something like that.
Yeah, okay. It's a little interesting that you call that fast food. Because, I mean, I guess it is. It's fast. You go and you take it away and you take it home. But, like, in the U.S., if it's not a big chain, we're less likely to call it fast food.
Oh, yeah. Maybe other people feel differently about it. Maybe they would say that that's a famous, a well-off establishment or something like that. But no, I would call it a takeaway. I would call it fast food.
Sure.
The other things that we have is all American stuff. Like, we've got McDonald's, we've got Burger King, we've got KFC. All of that stuff exists in the UK, and that's also fast food.
Sure, but, like, fish and chips, like, if you go to a fish and chip shop, it's going to be, like, a standalone, not a chain, usually, right? Are there big fish and chip chains? I've never heard of one.
I don't think so. No, I think they're all run, like, independently.
Okay. The one I was thinking of that you didn't mention is a sausage roll.
Oh, I can't believe I forgot that. Yeah, Greg's. Yeah, I survived in university off of all those sausage rolls.
Right. So Greg's is like a bakery, I guess?
Yeah. They're a chain bakery, and they sell all manner of good stuff: sausage rolls, pasties.
Pasties are like a meat pie, kind of.
Yeah. Okay. They're like flat, and they're not liquidy. The inside's all just kind of just ground up meat and spices and veg and stuff like that. Really good. Yeah, stuff like that. They also have dessert stuff like cookies and donuts and
do they?
Sorts. Yeah.
I've never heard anybody mention a Greg's donut or a Greg's cookie.
No, you go there for the hot stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's interesting because Japan has that kind of like Takamatsu at least has bakeries here and there, but like you very rarely, at least I don't really see people going there to like get a quick lunch very often at all.
Oh yeah, I wonder if it's because, I don't know, every time I've gone to a Japanese bakery, the things that they've served, even though they were hot at one point, they were fresh at one point, they're always stone cold.
They leave them out.
Yeah, where that never happens in Greg's. Like, you can ask them to get one that's fresh out of the oven, and the ones that you usually get at the counter, they're going to be piping hot anyway.
Okay, yeah. I mean, that makes sense. And I guess in Japan, people, they take them home a lot? They take, like, the sweet stuff home? Maybe. I'm not sure, but you don't see people... Obviously, people don't eat on the street here, so they wouldn't take them out and go eat them on the corner or whatever, like you might do with a sausage roll, but...
Yeah. I also think there are more independent bakeries here.
Yeah.
Which people go to. Like, my wife loves going to different cake shops and stuff like that.
Sure. Okay, if we're talking about eating and maybe drinking, how about pubs, British pubs?
Yeah, I think pubs are a very, like, integral part of any British community. Like, a lot of people will go there after work, on the weekend, anytime there's a big event that you want to do, and the ones that I've been to have had this really rustic feel to it, like, very traditional. I guess it's very different from a bar. And then the things that you order there don't usually be this. They're not usually the same. Like in the pub, you'd usually get like a beer, a stout, a cider. I've never really seen someone get like vodka, though you can. Right.
Yeah. So, and there's maybe another difference where like we have bars, obviously, in the U.S. We even have pubs, things we call Irish pubs or British pubs or something like that, but they're not really like a part of the community like that. I mean, sure, people go there after work or people go there on the weekend or whatever, but it's not thought of as like a meeting place. Like, I don't like when I say meeting place, like you wouldn't expect to go to the bar and like see other people in town are definitely there and you can go and chat with some people or whatever. And maybe I'm getting this wrong, but in the US, like bars are very adult places. Like, you know, a lot of states don't even allow kids in bars at all, whether or not they're drinking. But my impression of pubs is that's not necessarily true.
It depends on the pub. There have been plenty of pubs where kids are allowed during the day, but after a certain hour, they're no longer allowed. Usually that will be like 9 p.m., stuff like that. But during the daytime, pubs also kind of operate like a restaurant in many cases.
Okay.
Like you can order food there. And like pub food is another big thing in the UK that I really love.
Right, which is, would you find fish and chips on a pub food?
Yeah,
you would
find like a nice fish and chips, like a fancy fish and chips, or like I usually got like steak. That was the place where I got steak and chips.
Okay.
Or like
that sounds pretty fancy.
Surf and turf, stuff like that.
Steak and fish.
Yeah.
Okay, and I mean, I guess that's another difference. Is like bars in the U.S. aren't really open in the daytime. I mean, if they are like a bar restaurant, like a TGI Fridays or something like that, sure, there will be the restaurant open during the day, but like, it's not really a thing for bars to be open during the day. Most will maybe open for like happy hour, you know, around 5 or something like that, but no, not in the day usually. Yeah,
I mean, I know a lot of pubs that are actually used as wedding venues. So you'd have your, not the ceremony, of course, or like what you could do in some nice pubs, but mostly they were used for the after parties, the reception and so on. And you would stay in that place from probably like 12 p.m. to 12 a.m. or beyond in many cases. That's where my uncle's wedding ceremony was, or wedding reception was.
Okay, yeah. I mean, maybe there are some bars where you could do that. Maybe like the second or third party or something like that. But I think in the U.S. we have these like halls. Like, I guess you might call it like a banquet hall, but they usually have a different name. Like the VFW is one that I'm thinking of, which is like the veteran something. And there's like the fireman's hall. I forget what that's called. But there's like things like that where people would go for like wedding receptions, where there's like a lot of space and you usually get like a lot of catered food, like in those like big aluminum tins full of like French fries and like fried chicken or whatever, something like that. But you wouldn't go there anytime other than for like some big celebration.
Yeah, no. And I think I was going back to kind of fast food and like chain stores. There are a lot of chain pubs in the UK.
Right.
Like Wetherspoons is
I know of Wetherspoons, yeah.
Yeah, it's a really famous brand that kind of owns a bunch of pubs across the country.
But even Wetherspoons, my kind of impression of it is that they try to keep somewhat local where they go. I mean, at least like they buy buildings that are like special to the town and keep the building more or less as it was, and then they just like have the Wetherspoons menu inside or something.
Yeah, that's usually the case, and it's usually like cheaper than other pubs, and that's the one thing about Spoons.
Because I'm thinking of comparing it to like it's not a chain bar. The closest I can think of is like a TGI Fridays, as I mentioned before, which is like a restaurant, but also pretty famous for having a bar.
Yeah.
And that, like, if you go to a Fridays will always look like a Fridays. You don't need to see the sign to know what it is.
Yeah.
Or like a McDonald's, obviously not a bar, but like a McDonald's always looks like a McDonald's. But a Wetherspoons the building will be like interesting usually.
Yeah, but the vibe is the same, I'd say.
The vibe is the same. Even from the outside, you could see a building and be like, that's probably a Spoons.
I think you could.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm probably wrong on that, but if it's filled with young students, it's probably a Spoons. If it's filled with old gentlemen, it's a local place.
Okay, that's cool. All right, after that, I don't know. We're going about 20 minutes now. Is there anything else you want to add?
I don't know. We haven't gone through everything.
There's sure a lot more, but maybe for this... Wow, sorry, that was a bit loud. There's a lot more, but maybe we'll leave it for this one. And if you guys want to hear more from Josh, let me know on my Instagram. And you want to come back on sometime?
Yeah, sure, why not?
All right, cool. All right, well, thanks for listening, guys, and talk to you next time. Maybe see you in Sapporo or Osaka. Bye-bye.